What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Kajagoogoo, and we're back to finish their 1984 album Islands. Thank you once again to Mr. Solo. And admittedly, in the moment, I forget if and what else might be in the umbrella Kajagoogoo folder, so bear with me, but we'll figure that out soon enough. And the final track on the album, Islands, is The Loop. So a loop is a repeating circle, or maybe an ellipse. I don't think the shape in a physical sense or geometrical sense is necessarily important, but the idea of being caught in a recurring cycle. Now, you might want to be in a loop, that might be something which is positive, but I think it is often used to indicate one which you cannot escape. And even if the specifics of it aren't necessarily unpleasant or harmful, after a while you might feel a desire to get away from that, to feel or experience something new and not to be endlessly repeating this loop. Now, it might have nothing to do with any of that sentiment, so let's see what I can pick up in practice, or rather on my first listen. This is Kajagoogoo, the track is The Loop, and it's the final tune on their 1984 album Islands. What is that instrument? almost like comic at the end there. I mean, was that Satchmo on the trumpet? So, okay. The overall feel is two things came to mind. One, it's like a synth rock band of the 80s kind of just having a jam session. It feels, if not improvised, certainly it feels like it's free flowing and they're just, enjoying playing together. Second thought I had, and this is going to sound like critical or dismissive, I don't really mean it this way, but I did kind of have this scene in my head that this is kind of like 80s like wedding reception music, but one where people are having fun and telling stories and wishing the bride and groom well and eating good food and just generally enjoying themselves in an 80s sort of way. So yes, I don't mean that as a critical joke, but yeah, I did have this scene of like a fun 80s wedding reception where everyone's kind of having a good time and just being citizens of the 80s. So yeah, that was a vibe I got. It is interesting to end an album which has regular songs with vocals and lyrics on it with an instrumental. Now certainly not unprecedented, but I wasn't going into this thinking it would be an instrumental. Now fair to say the title, The Loop, maybe makes a bit more sense to me, or not more sense, but I can now conceive of a manner or of a reason that it was given that title. The idea of just being in a groove and again jamming with each other and just kind of going wherever it takes you and continually coming back around to the same themes even as you do variations and flourishes and so on. So yeah, it feels like it was a well-named track. And yeah, very cool. Again, like, I didn't know much about Kajagoogoo going into this, and indeed, the one thing I thought I knew about them is, Never Ending Story. It's like, well, that's actually a Lamal tune. So, yeah, I've been interested and have been enjoying learning about Kajagoogoo both like with and post Lamal. In the moment, as I said, I forget if there is another folder in the larger umbrella folder for them, and once again, thank you to Han Solo. But if there is, we will go through it, so looking forward to that. Once again, shout out to all the folks who've been part of this deep dive, and Luca, the cat who is indeed on my cup here, if you can see. I haven't taken this one out for a while, but I found it when I was going through my mugs earlier. In any case, she and I will see you next time. Peace.